अच्छा पहले ही आके सूली पे चढ़ा रहे हो मुझे मतलब ये ऐसे सवाल पूछ के now there is so much exposure that sometimes over exposure is an overkill. Tiger and Zoya are husband and wife. That evolution, their thing was they married. Wherein in Pathan, Rubai, the character, so she was meant to be a femme fatale. The way I saw Deepika, the way I presented Deepika was a lot different from how people may have perceived it. You are asking me this question means I've really stayed out of the media. Katrina left the country where she came from and wanted to pursue a dream and harbor a dream of becoming an actress here. You can only imagine what she may have had to go through in her journey. Madhuri Dixit and Saroj Khan's combination in Ek Do Teen blew my mind. 2 दिन में आपको एक सीख के आपको you want to put yourself out there. That is a little immature. वहाँ से शुरुआत होती है mediocrity की I think. Lovely ना this education interview has happened.
No.
Hi, namaskar. I'm Vaibhavi Merchant and you're watching me on midday.com.
Hello everybody, welcome to midday.com and I am here with someone who's a little rare to like catch hold of. I'm here with choreographer Vaibhavi Merchant, who's probably the person behind some of the biggest dance numbers we've had in Indian cinema. Some of the hook steps that we've been dancing to for years now has been created by her, and it's such a great privilege to be able to speak to her today. Hi Vaibhavi, welcome to Midday.
Thank you Boni. You've got a wonderful name. I want to know what the meaning is.
It means fire.
Oh!
Thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, it's a rare privilege. You usually do not talk to the media too much. Why is that?
अच्छा पहले ही आके सूली पे चढ़ा रहे हो मुझे मतलब ये ऐसे सवाल पूछ के I guess I just reached a point where I felt speaking the same things, you know, when you repeatedly ask the similar question and same questions, you run out of answers.
Right.
Until I don't collect a newer answer, something that I want to say, till I don't search my answers correctly and articulate it right, I don't think it was my space to come and give out that. But also I'm a little shy. I'm also a little recluse. मैं हूँ ऐसी थोड़ी because I am a little detached. I like being in my own space. I don't live in this part of the film part of, like I'm not a Bandra, Juhu, Andheri girl. I'm a South Bombay girl, and I'm happy being there sometimes. मैं मतलब जैसे माही चर्च क्रॉस करती हूँ मैं डिस्कनेक्ट ही हो जाती हूँ मतलब मुझे पता ही नहीं. Then I'm part of Shivaji Park. I'm happy seeing all these lovely things happening around me. So I guess that could be the reason. And वहाँ से यहाँ आना मतलब it's tough. So I'm very happy in my own space, I guess.
Right.
So
right.
That's why maybe I was not out there speaking a lot to media and speaking a lot. Like I said, I'm a little shy. Like I've become, I don't know, एक पहले था वो, you know, when I was a little, like in my 20s, when I was in my 20s, I was like all there. I wanted to be out there. But I think as you grow in your profession and you learn to take a back seat, you kind of mature. You come to a point where you know what is more important, what is priority.
There's so much work that you do. There's so many projects, both film and non-film, that you're constantly working on. Do you prefer to let that do the talking instead of, being...
I think, yes, absolutely. Thank you for reminding me that's exactly how I think. Like you said, like it should always be the body of work that you do. I mean, especially in this cross culture, like for us, when I started off also, let me brief you, like I'm not from the YouTube culture, YouTube generation. Like we were exposed to radio, and then after radio we got televisions, and after television we got into the whole video cassette format and all of that, you know. So we've been through the evolution, my generation, we've seen all of that come through. And now there is so much exposure that sometimes overexposure is an overkill. And I don't want to be overexposed. I don't want to kill my own space and my own mental peace or whatever. And I genuinely feel that people who should know the kind of work you do and the way you want to translate, the way you want to communicate through silence and through your work, that will eventually happen. And I guess now, with your generation of media personals, I think you all are understanding that, and I'm very grateful to all of you all to even ask me a question like that and understand that aspect about me.
Amazing. You talking about the way you started off. Again, that is something we don't know much about. How you became one of the topmost choreographers we have today in the country?
You are asking me this question means I've really stayed out of the media. But no, actually, so my education, my upbringing has always been, I'm in the south of Bombay. I was schooling in South Mumbai. I was also in Jai Hind College at a given point. What happened is that I wanted to pursue commercial art. Like, I love to paint, I love watercolors, and I thought I would always do something in arts, and I wanted to be a fashion designer. I had this thing for fashion and all of that. But I scored academically brilliantly. So my family thought, okay, great, this one is a math student. She's a science student. Dalo. So I joined commerce after that. But my heart wasn't really in place, and I just felt like, no, I needed to do something more. And that's when my grandmother, my Nani ji, actually told that, she should be pursuing her grandfather's career. Now, up until the point of, say, when I was 10, 11, I really didn't know what my lineage was, because we were never really allowed to see him work. My Nana ji, Shri B. Hiralal ji, was a renowned choreographer in the 50s and 60s. He's done some, like, they were the Lal brothers, they ruled the industry then with songs, and the culture of Vaijayanti Mala ji coming in, Padmini ji, Ragini ji coming in, Helen auntie coming in, all of those great legendary dancers, when those actresses came in, they thrived. And I didn't know any of it. And I was mercilessly, I'm grateful today, but I was mercilessly put into training. Like, मैं कथक भी करती थी, मैं भरतनाट्यम भी करती थी, मुझे कुचिपुड़ी भी बताया जाता था करने को, ओडिसी भी डालता था. I was also doing Latin American dance forms, I was also doing jazz, I was also doing western, I would also learn folk dancing. So इतनी extensive training मुझे क्यों कराई जा रही थी, मुझे पता ही नहीं था. But I used to be like, we were obedient at that point of time. अच्छा बोला गया है तो करो. Like, my mother kept that going. My mother gave me a lot of encouragement. She always kept that, like, she didn't want she wanted a certain environment for my upbringing. Like, she wanted me to be artistically fulfilled. Like, because that's how she was trained. उनको सितार भी बजाना था, उनको डांस भी करना था, उनको रियाज भी करना था, उनको गाना भी गाना था. So that was, it's a very South culture. Like, she was brought up in Chennai. Even though her mother is part Telugu and part Rajasthani. My Nana is Rajasthani, but my Nani is Telugu. So वो क्रॉस कल्चर, लाइक फुल ऑल इंडिया चल रहा था हमारे घर के माहौल में.
Sounds a lot like a Bengali household.
Completely, like सब कुछ होना है.
Painting भी आना चाहिए,
गाना भी. So it's cultural refinement, right? Like, you are taught from that age. You're taught from very early in life to kind of be disciplined, to pursue your goals, and it's very, वो बहुत अच्छी बात है कि हमारे इस कल्चर में ये सब हैं. हमारे स्टोरीज आप सुन लो, हमारा संगीत, हमारा म्यूजिक, हमारा डांस, हमारा स्कल्पचर्स, our entire artistic diaspora for us in our country. I remember कि जब ये, मतलब हम स्कूल से आते थे तब गाना सुनते थे, and we used to wonder कि क्या हो रहा है वहाँ पर. We were never really allowed. तो मुझे पता ही नहीं था. So my entire journey started from understanding what choreography meant. अच्छा, उसके बाद what exploded for me was Saroj Khan ji's work with Madhuri ji. Madhuri Dixit and Saroj Khan's combination in Ek Do Teen blew my mind. I was like blown away. I was like, wow. I mean, उस वक्त मीनाक्षी शेषाद्री भी जी थे, मुझे रीना रॉय जी बहुत पसंद थी, उनका डांस बहुत पसंद था. There were lots of these very few dancing artists, actresses, and then of course Shri Devi ji also. When she did Lamhe, Chandni. My array into films was through Yash Chopra films. For me, when I saw those films, I said, wow, this is great. Up until then, I was a South Bombay girl getting my VHS tapes from Shimaru every week and watching English films.
Okay.
Yeah. So with my education, with all of that, and with this, I think destiny had a role to play also in my journey of becoming choreography. Choreography was never taught as a subject.
Right.
डांस आपको सिखाया जाता है, बट कोरियोग्राफी आपको कभी कोई नहीं सिखाता. So for me to articulate that, to go in, to discover that for myself, to kind of break it down, to kind of flow with it, to understand what it is, to understand everybody's craft, whether it was my grandfather's craft, कि उस वक्त उस ज़माने में क्या होता था, to kind of reaching also sometimes to P.L. Rajmaster ji's work, then to see Saroj Khan ji's work, and to see Farah's work, to see, so there was a lot of learning from other people's work also for me. of course, internationally, when I went back, for me, I was fascinated by Ziegfeld Follies, the way they kind of did those, and with Bob Fosse, like he did those musicals, and like I used to watch a lot of That's Entertainment. You see a musical journey of the 30s, 40s, 50s culture of Hollywood musicals. So for me, like those classic movies also opened my entire thinking, I guess, for choreography, and that's very important, like to be able to embrace and say, and not be rigid about कि यही style है या वही style है. No, you can't be rigid in the world of film choreography. That was, the books were our go-to for referencing. These VHS tapes which we would get with a lot of waiting, like कभी किसी ने लिया होता तो you know wait list पे होते हो आप. So all of that बहुत आपको बहुत slowly आया. आज it's an explosion of information. Like today you, at a snap of a finger and even a shorter span, you would be exposed to so much in that nanosecond, you know. So it's amazing that we are also here today with this.
I've always wondered that how do you do a stage musical and also, you know, choreograph a very typical Bollywood dance number, and now we know where all that talent comes from. When you,
I think discipline is very important. I think what classical training taught me, and which is very important, I feel, and I wish that upon everybody कि कभी भी अपने ज़िंदगी में अगर आपको, आजकल क्या है, आजकल instant classical भी हो गया, but that was not the classical by which I was taught. I was trained and trained and trained under my gurus. My gurus were also tough on us, like you know, उस ज़माने के गुरु versus आज के गुरुज में थोड़ा फ़र्क है, because हर एक generation को वक्त के साथ चलना होता है, उस वक्त के speed के साथ, लय के साथ चलना बहुत ज़रूरी है. So all of that, maintaining that also, today people want instant gratification. They want to learn. एक तोड़ा टुकड़ा उनको लगता है 5 दिन में सीखना होता है. But वैसे, like wherein we were taught for years, we were training in that craft for years for us to be refined, for us to reach this point where we are able to part that knowledge with others. And I just feel कि इस वक्त में जहाँ पर किसी के पास इतना वक्त नहीं है to spend time and learn and discipline themselves to understand. अगर आपका लक्ष्य वो है कि आपको मतलब झटपट 2 दिन में आपको एक सीख के आपको you want to put yourself out there for people to judge you, I think that is a little immature, and that gets a little, वहाँ से शुरुआत होती है mediocrity की, I think. So it's very important for you to understand उसका एक बोलते ना एक तगड़ा रियाजदार बच्चा या you know student जब निकलता है बाहर versus somebody who's half baked, उसमें आपको difference पता लग ही जाता है. And the volume of work that has increased, like our cinema has also grown, the business has like really like has hit the roof literally, but the kind of films we are churning, the number of films we are churning, we are one of the highest churning film industries in the world. तो आप सोच ही सकते हो कि काम कितना है और लोग कितने कम है, it's still not enough.
You know, talking about maintaining quality and, you know, being true to the art form and everything, you know, as a female choreographer, how do you kind of walk the fine line between, okay, I want to stay true to the craft, the dance form, versus what is probably commercially expected of me?
So, like for instance, when I did Aaja Nachle, like I'll give you an example, it all depends on film to film. Every film has a temperament, its story, its screenplay, its characters. अब मैं वो स्पाई यूनिवर्स में अगर मुझे बोले जा रहे कि अभी कथक के मैं कुछ स्टेप, I mean it doesn't go obviously, but with that you must understand and learn the gravitas of the requirement, that what is it that will optimize that particular scenario, that particular situation, that particular piece in the film, and how does it heighten it, how does it become the USP. Like for instance, if I have done a Besharam Rang this year, I've also done a Dhindora Bajere. Ab Dhindora Bajere comes from a very pure folk format, of course still fused in, because there is also story narrative, there is also a little bit of tension happening within the family, so वो भी आपको balance करना पड़ता है. उसके पहले ही हमने एक classical version डोला रे डोला में हमने with 2 male performers जिन्होंने classical नहीं सीखा, so that was a challenge. Ranveer is not a classically Indian.
Neither is Tota.
Neither is Tota Roy Chaudhary. Yeah. And for these 2 men, it was challenging. Imagine when Karan comes in with a situation like this, that ab ye karna hai. So there's a sword lingering above my head. Because अगर मैं यहाँ से थोड़ा 19-20 हुई, तो मेरे classical के जो मेरी fraternity हैं, जहाँ से मैं बिलोंग करती हूँ, खानदानी हूँ, मैं जयपुर घराना को बिलोंग, वो मेरा मर्डर कर देंगे. मतलब मुझे पता नहीं, खानदानी हो के भी उसको समझ नहीं आया क्या करना है. अब मैं यहाँ से अगर मैं यहाँ टिल्ट करती हूँ कि ज़्यादा क्लासिकल बन जाता है, और यू नो इट्स समथिंग दैट रणवीर एंड टोटा कांट पुल ऑफ, then I have done a disservice to them as actors. So it is my responsibility to ensure that I protect them first, I protect the character's requirement, and I protect the director's vision. So ये तीन चीज़ें बहुत important हो जाती है, and they rest on my shoulders, and of course they have that trust, the kind of trust they show to me now, that you know if Vaibhavi is there, अच्छा हाँ ठीक है ये superb हो जाने वाला है, that itself is again pressure binding, not pressure binding, but it's a, you are morally obligated then to deliver more than your best, and that has always been my intention to do it. So, and then to slip into a besharam rang. So I get asked this question, how do you do it? कि आप कैसे जाते? I said that's partly based on my understanding and my unlearning and learning. When I have to, when if I come with that thing of कि नहीं मैंने तो classical किया है, अब मैं ये करूँगी तो वो नहीं ठीक. I cannot come with that rigidity. I have to come with a fluidity. I have to come with a lot of open-mindedness. I have to come with a space of, okay, let me see, let me learn, let me discover. अच्छा और क्या क्या कर सकती हूँ मैं? अच्छा ये और कैसे बेहतर कर सकती हूँ? इसको ये कैसे हो सकता है? So that question and answer within yourself, no, जिसमें मैं मसरूफ रहती हूँ, इसलिए मैं आके इंटरव्यूज नहीं दे पाती हूँ. ये सवाल और जवाब ना मेरे अंदर ही मुझे बहुत बिजी रखता है. And I like that space. I need to have that space for myself to ask those questions to myself, to answer them, then to execute it in my songs.
You know, many dance numbers are of course criticized for being a little too sexy or maybe titillating. Has it ever happened with you that you had to put your foot down with a producer or a filmmaker saying ki no, I am not going to go overboard with this?
So coming to the question, there was a part, I think there was a certain time in our film industry, which could be the 80s, I think, the early 80s. You know, those South Indian film remakes were being made, and you know, there was that. But there was also a generation before that where we saw cabarets executed so beautifully. Like if you see a Husn ke lakho rang, kaun sa rang dekhoge, kaun sa ang dekhoge, you see, if you now interpret those lyrics and now the way they kind of did it. Now each genre caters to a certain audience. Now if the audience is today, if we are kind of catering to a spy universe, you have a prototype set in a film called James Bond, where Bo Derek, when she came out of the water in the swimsuit, you felt wow. The audiences felt यार ये ऐसे कुछ होता हो, ये ना ये स्पाई लोग ऐसे होते हैं, और ये स्पाई यूनिवर्सेस की जो फीमेल कैरेक्टर्स होते हैं, they are these femme fatales होती हैं, they are these femme fatales. So every फिर then we saw the evolution of heroines who became, मतलब हमारे जो कल्चरल के हीरोइंस हैं, मतलब जैसे हम अपने शास्त्रों में या वेदों से हमारे जो कल्चरल, हम जो नायिकाएं क्लासिकल में हम लोग एनैक्ट करते हैं, वो कभी सीता माँ है या मीनाक्षी है फ्रॉम दैट टेम्पल या लक्ष्मी जी हैं. ऑल गॉड्स एंड गॉडेसेस वर आर फीमेल कैरेक्टर्स एंड एक्टर्स. सो वी इन क्लासिकल फॉर्मेट डिपिक्ट दोज, लाइक मीरा है, लाइक ऑल दोज mythological characters. With the evolution, characters changed. When the characters changed, the requirement changed. Now, if there is a woman who's supposed to be Jay Auntie's character in Sholay, she was a widower versus Hemaji's character as Basanti. She was all of fervor. She was the one who had to perform in front of Basanti in Kutto ke samne mat dance karna. But she had to. But obviously Jay Auntie's character couldn't, right? So, I'm just saying it is, everything is character driven.
Okay. I get it.
It is not about कि प्रोड्यूसर को मन किया है या डायरेक्टर को मन किया या कोरियोग्राफर को मन किया है. मन राइटर लिखता है, वो कैरेक्टर, वो किरदार लिखता है, वो किरदार के हिसाब से उसको. अब फॉर इंस्टेंस टाइगर और जोया, टाइगर एंड जोया हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ, राइट? एवोल्यूशन हैपेंड. फर्स्ट दे मेट, she was a spy from another country and he's a spy from India, from raw agent. Now, through those, that evolution, they also, their thing was they married, now they have a child together, and now where the story progresses. Wherein in Pathan, where Rubai, the character, was meeting, like Pathan, the spy, was meeting her for the first time, not knowing what her background is and where she's from. So she was meant to be a femme fatale, for instance. So when she was out there in the, so उसका एक mindset है, वो character call है. वो कहाँ है अब? वो जुहू आक्सा बीच के जुहू बीच में अगर उसने जाके वो किया होता शायद वो अलग, देन इट वुड हैव बीन द सॉन्ग फ्रॉम साथिया में एक गाना था जो यहीं शूट हुआ था, बीच चोरी पे चोरी पार्टी सॉन्ग, तो उसका एक अलग फील है. अभी वे हाउ मेनी बीच सॉन्ग्स वी हैव सीन थ्रू द इयर्स. अब ये वाला जो स्पेन में जो बीच गाना कर रहे हैं वाटर बॉडी के सामने, वो अब कैसे अलग करें? So for me, my muse became, and I was a woman. So for me, the way I saw Deepika, the way I presented Deepika was a lot different from how people may have perceived it. Now it is up. Now I'm not going to sit at that point of time and explain and give them this full spiel and this full documentation of how it is done and why it is done, because nobody asked me at that point of time. But yes, so today to explain to you that story, I think it is why it is, and that's the kind of cinema which is your supposed big ticket cinemas or your big film, your big commercial cinema have certain tropes which they kind of follow, and within those tropes also we kind of try to do, we kind of try to mold things differently, right?
Really nice to be able to pick the brains of people who work behind the scenes, because you really want to know whatever that is being depicted on screen, what's the thought behind it, and that's what we try to present.
Yeah, so it's like, for instance, like there are people who have done it for titillation sakes. I'm not saying I'm not, but luckily I have not been part of those. And so your question, to kind of complete that question, what do I do in it? I refuse those songs.
I'm sure. People your grandfather got to work with, some of the most, beautiful, brilliant, iconic actresses we've had over the generations who've done such great body of work, and brilliant dancers we've had. Somewhere people keep talking about how that charm is lost, that classic beauty of presenting a dance form or the talent. As somebody who's working with actors from different generations, do you rue the lack of that talent, or do you think that the talent is being presented or utilized in a different way? Say for example, if you're working with a Katrina Kaif in Leke Prabhu Ka Naam, she's not a trained dancer. She doesn't come from a dance background. We've seen her evolution on screen as a dancer, but when you are working with her, what are your observations on how she approaches?
So I just want to quickly recap on the first part of the question you asked me, which is the generational shift, arc shift that has happened between the actresses in the yesteryears versus now. I see a lot of those actresses also, they trained in the form that was exposed to them in their generation. So if they came from, say, Chennai, there's a heavy influence of Bharatnatyam, Kuchipudi, all those classical art forms, and whatever's available, whatever resources, whatever art form is available to them at that particular moment and that region. Whether it's from Bengal cinema, if you see those beautiful Uday Shankar ballet forms, art forms. So you saw that delicateness of how they used to kind of also articulate their forms. Now coming back to a shift in the story of this country itself, if you see how modernization influx in the 90s, how the influence of globalization kind of came into it, that influence brought in a lot of exposure of the West to our country as well, and a healthy exchange of both the Indian and Western culture. It also brought in an open spectrum for artists from all walks of life. So when Katrina left the country where she came from and wanted to pursue a dream and harbor a dream of becoming an actress here, you can only imagine what she may have had to go through in her journey, because she was not born here. Yes. She was not exposed to Hindi. Yeah. She was not exposed to the Indian art form, dancing or singing, whatever, her craft. So her journey is very different to a journey vis-a-vis an actor of today's generation who's from here. So you must give credit to her and her alone to have recognized that, to have understood her shortcomings, to have understood and overcome her lack of knowledge on maybe cinema, the language barrier, the craft, the cinema, the films, and to make that her own and to embrace the culture so beautifully today. Like you see her in saris today with her sindoor and her Mangal Sutra. I feel lovely to see that. Yeah. So that is her shift of arc. I know of Padmini ji, who was culturally brought up here, but then she went to the US and settled there. So look at the shift, like every person's journey and arc. I feel each one has their own narrative, their own understanding and journey into cinema, into any art form and craft. And for me to sum it up in a general compartment, or like to say it, I can say a broader spectrum to it, but I can't label each individual to the other individual, or compare that person to the other person. Right. That's little unfair. Like what Madhuri ji's journey would have been versus what Sri ji's journey would have been. They're two different journeys, but they're both loved. Yes. And I guess that's the name of the game.
Right, right. Talking about dancers and talents and everything, some of the biggest stars that you work with, I'm talking about Salman, Shah Rukh, they themselves admit that, okay, we are not great dancers, but they come with a certain charisma and they're known for a certain screen's presence. How difficult is it to maintain that while you're also choreographing them?
See, I think they are self-maintained. I can say that for sure, because I think all the choreographers, not just me, I think all of them are doing their bit with them. I'm doing my bit with them. Our Indian actors and actresses have to go beyond the profession of just acting. We're calling them actors, but they're stars. Yeah. Them, because अभी इनको action भी आना है करना, उनको dance भी आना है. Acting के अलावा उनको और चीजें भी करनी है. आजकल माइक पे भी आ गए, सिंगिंग भी हो रहा है. So there are multiple things they're doing in one film to entertain their fans and their audiences, right? Like, and they're discovering, they're also fulfilling whatever it is that they want to do. Like Salman also paints.
Yes.
So that he discovered later, and he is only artistically fulfilling all his desires, I'm assuming. That's where he's at. And he feels that, yeah, this comes to him instinctively. And जहाँ पर charisma की बात है, तो of course you know how charismatic these actors and actresses are, and they are made special, or they are cut out differently, or they are kind of programmed to be doing that. Not everybody is programmed to become actors and actresses. Like I remember my journey had also started. I had also briefly done an acting. I had acted in a film, one Malayalam film, yes. I did, but I didn't enjoy it one bit. I didn't like it at all. I felt it's not satisfying me, my urges as an artist. Like I want to be a director. I want to be controlling the frame. I want to set the frame and say, "आप ये करेंगे, आपका ये है, वैसा है." So that gave me the intense joy. Not just coming in front of the camera and just saying something, and like I'm not but coming in front of the camera, I said, I want to know what it feels like to be on the other side of camera, to understand my actors better. So मेरी वो journey भी उस वजह से रही है. So I think all the actors today and actresses today, I think they are just going far beyond than what they are required. पहले अच्छा था, एक पेड़ के अराउंड गाते थे, गाना गाया करते थे, होल्ड द फ्रेम, खड़े खड़े एक दूसरे को देख के आंखों में गाना गा. The demand changed, therefore the supply had to change, and therefore that much more expectation that go beyond. They're breaking their bones. You see the amount of injuries they are going through, these actors and actresses, the amount of injuries they have to incur. And for me, even to do Kamli with Katrina, I was very particular about all the acrobats that she had to also do. Of course, we also had people doing few shots for her, body double wise, but there are a lot of those shots she has done it herself.
That is like a mind-blowing song.
Yeah, so
I can't even fathom how.
But it takes a lot of toll on them. It takes a lot of toll on the body. But again, they're wired different. They know that ये वो जुनून है. तुम अगर जुनून ही नहीं होगे ना, if you're trained to be a 9 to 5, 9 to 6, अच्छा मेरा हो गया भाई. अब मैंने बहुत काम कर लिया. There is no बहुत काम कर लिया in our profession. They are non-stop. There are days when we've stretched 48 hours of work non-stop. So that entertainment industry is tough, is a little erratic. The hours are erratic.
And then the criticism.
The demand, the demand is erratic. It's emotionally demanding. All of that, and then to sensitize it, and then to be moral policing it, and then to be a moral judge for it. All of that, there's a lot that goes on into the psyche of the human being that is also the actor, right? We forget that the actor is also a human being first. Or the technician is also the human being. It's very easy for you all to troll and to say what you need to say. Fair enough, we get to learn a lot. Sometimes you also get entertained with it. I'm not judging any of that, but we are in a time like this. So then you modify, you mold, and I think the actors are doing a stupendous job.
Vaibhavi, this is such a great chat, and we just, I think, got carried away talking so much about, what goes on behind, and such enlightening chat that way. Just one, the main point why we met is Tiger 3 and the song Leke Prabhu Ka Naam. Is this the only song that you have choreographed in the film, or there are more?
So there are, I think, more songs in the album. Currently, this is the only one which is out. The other one, which is a beautiful song, another lovely song, which I can't talk about right now because it has to be out. I think it will be out when it's closer to the film's release, and I think it will only be out with the film because it's narrative driven.
Okay.
So if that's going to be out, then you might just kind of give away a lot. It will be an overshare. So, but that's again a very soothing track, which Arijit has again sung. So it will be a lovely. We're hoping that becomes also a song that touches the heart.
I'm sure it will be, and it's so great.
Thank you.
So lovely to be able to talk to you today, and so much insights. Like I'm like my so much thoughts and ideas and understanding of things that go behind the scenes right now. And thank you so much for having this chat with us.
Pleasure is mine, Boni.
Thank you. The pleasure is ours watching your work on screen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.